Frankenstein came out in 1931 and was an enormous success. It is to this day the most famous version of Mary Shelley's novel, and today we're going to talk about why it is one of the most important films in all of horror, and the fact that, spoiler alert, it definitely still holds up. It is a phenomenal movie. All this and more on the Golden Hour Film Podcast. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Golden Hour Film Podcast. Yes, it is myself, and I actually didn't realise I got it wrong last week. You are my co-host, not guest host. I did it the other way around last week and didn't realise. That's just because I was somewhat tired, in case you couldn't tell. It's Shane.
How you doing, Harry? How you doing, everyone?
Yeah, no, all good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm a little bit under the weather, but sure, that's to be expected this time of the year. Sure, we'll crack on. Frankenstein. We'll delve into one of the all-time, I'd say, classics when it comes to like early horror films.
Yeah, I think classic is a very appropriate word for this film. It's my third time watching it, I think, and even though I've never actually increased the score for some reason, I feel like it has gotten better on a rewatch every time. And to be honest, I think I'm not going to give away my rating now, but I think if I was to like see it in the cinema or something, that would probably be the final straw, and I would have to bump it up another half a star. But yeah, I think it's a phenomenal film. Love Frankenstein, and it's your first time seeing it, isn't it?
Yeah, I haven't seen Frankenstein before. Obviously, I know the story kind of really well because it's been adapted umpteen times, and people always make the mistake, which I'm sure we'll come on to, about Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster. So I was already aware of that kind of whole situation as well. But yeah, no, I knew the story pretty well, but I'd never seen this interpretation, and I'd seen clips of other interpretations, but certainly this interpretation is my first time seeing. And yeah, spoiler alert, free early spoiler. Yeah, situation. It's really good. It's really good.
Yeah, I think one thing we kind of failed to touch on last week with our Dracula episode is to point out just how dire things were at Universal Studios before Dracula and Frankenstein came out. They had reported a loss, which was huge at the time, of 2.2 million in 1930, and then they go and release Dracula, which was a big success, and then they go and release Frankenstein, which had a budget of about 200,000, made 12 million at the box office. It was a huge success, and it was directed by James Whale, who is a legendary horror director. He also did The Invisible Man and Bride of Frankenstein, which we'll be covering this month. He also did The Old Dark House, as well as other films, and he is a phenomenal director. I just think he gets the human element right in a lot of his horror films, and yeah, James Whale, what a man! Like what an actual legend. One of the very first gay icons of cinema. He was one of the very few openly gay men in Hollywood in the 20s and 30s, and he then gave us Frankenstein, Invisible Man. I still haven't seen The Old Dark House. A lot of people say it's a phenomenal movie, a really good haunted house film, kind of the quintessential haunted house film of the 30s, and then of course Bride of Frankenstein, which a lot of people then would say has a lot of gay subtext, which, hey, we'll talk about that when we talk about it. It's at the end of the month. Today we're talking about the OG. Today we're talking about Frankenstein. Shane, will you give us a spoiler-free review of Frankenstein?
Yeah, I really loved it. I loved it, in particular, what they do with Dr. Frankenstein. I really love, I mean, obviously we know the story, but I thought Colin Clive's performance really kind of stood out to me. I don't think it's an actor I was too aware of before.
He died very young.
Did he? Okay, yeah. I don't think I've seen him in anything. I could be wrong, but certainly if I did, I'm not aware of it. But his performance really stood out to me. The kind of the conflict and the whole tension that he goes through, because he's trying to kind of do the right thing, but he has a lot of hubris and a lot of kind of bravado, and he just wants to kind of make a name for himself, no matter the cost, no matter the human cost. And then Boris Karloff's kind of his mannerisms and his body language when it comes to playing the monster, again, kind of like what we said last week with Bela Lugosi and Dracula. It's kind of iconic in the way in terms of how much it's been aped and how much it's been kind of replicated down the years, down the decades.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of, it's almost like a stereotype now of how you would play a kind of non-feeling monster, even though actually he does have some feelings towards the end of the film.
Yeah.
I think we'll see, but certainly in the early stages, the kind of the movements that he does and his body language and his facial expressions, all really, really iconic. So yeah, I love this film. What about you?
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up Bela Lugosi. Obviously, we covered him last week as he played Dracula, of course. He wanted to play Henry Frankenstein in this film and was told, you can play the monster. To which he was like, absolutely not. Spoiler alert, he plays Frankenstein's monster in future films. Yeah. But yeah, instead we got Boris Karloff, who is like one of the quintessential horror actors of the 30s. I love Boris Karloff. He was brilliant. Genuinely great actor. Again, I feel like I've referenced this already because the two of them were in the same film, but he is so good in The Body Snatcher. He is by far the best part of that film, and it's a good film as well. But Boris Karloff's performance in that is so good. He's just such a dastardly man. And yeah, he's in plenty of other things. He was kind of Hollywood's answer to Lon Chaney dying. They tried to make him into the next Man of a Thousand Faces. I think they succeeded, to be honest. Although he is English, was English, should I say. And yeah, for about 20 years until he died, he dressed up as Santa every Christmas Day and went to children's hospitals.
Apparently, he also sustained a pretty serious back injury on this film towards this big set piece towards the end where you're going towards a windmill and he has to carry Dr. Frankenstein, Colin Clive, up into the windmill, and apparently he kind of sustained a bit of a back injury here, and it's something that would go on to plague him for pretty much the rest of his life. He had various surgeries. So it wasn't without its kind of pitfalls, although it is obviously the role that made him really iconic, and it's by far the role he's most known for. So yeah, there's that to say for it as well.
Yeah, he was also the Mummy, which is shit. Right, I reckon we get on into this because yeah, Frankenstein's class, and I just can't wait to get into talking about the absolutely rapid fire movie. It's like 70 minutes. If you've not seen it, seriously go watch it. Especially, it's October, lads, unless you're watching this in the future, in which case, hello. But if you're watching this whenever this comes out, go stick Frankenstein on. It is a class time at the movies, and you don't even have to go to the movies. So, Edward Van Sloan, who was Van Helsing in the previous film, gives us an address. There was supposed to be an address like this at the end of Dracula, but there wasn't. And basically, he says that there's a man, and he sought to create life without consoling God. A man who is dealing with life and death. It's one of them things that Simpsons parody this all the time, and it happened loads of times where like an actor would come out in front of a curtain and introduce and then close out a film. And yeah, I think it really helps set the atmosphere. Yeah, like 100%. Watching this on like a projector with your snacks and stuff, and you see Edward Van Sloan coming out. It feels like Halloween. Yeah, gets you in the mood. Also, just with the credits, is a question mark next to who plays the monster, because Boris Karloff wasn't a big name at this point. This was the film that put him out there. Yeah.
No, he will apparently fully admit himself that this is the role that would obviously go on to kind of give him the international acclaim that he had. But yeah, we're saying the same thing basically.
yeah, because like in future, it's so funny. In Frankenstein, on the poster, everybody's heads are quite small, and it's the words Frankenstein that's really big. Whereas in most of the other Boris Karloff horror films after this, it's Karloff written in huge letters, and sometimes his name is actually bigger than the name of the movie in the posters. That's how big he was as a result of this. Like, he was a legit horror icon, and deservedly so. He's class in these roles. He doesn't really have an awful lot to do here because he's no dialogue, but what he does is still so evocative, and I think he does phenomenally as Frankenstein's monster. Or, as Frankenstein, as people call him. I don't really care that people get that mixed up. No, but it's like, people get so worked up about it, and it's like, it's an easy mistake.
It is. Look, I think Frankenstein isn't your kind of normal name anyway, so I can understand how people would think, right, Frankenstein. It's a bit of a weird sounding name, so it must be the monster. But yeah, obviously,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
really matter.
It's
Really.
like when people get pissed off when they say, "Luke, I am your father," and they're like, "He says no, I am your father." Like, shut up, man.
Yeah,
Who
it doesn't
cares?
really
Who
matter.
actually cares? Anyway, so after a funeral, Henry Frankenstein, the doctor, played by Colin Clive, and Fritz, played by our boy Dwight Fry, uh, yeah, they find the body after this funeral that's been put in the ground, and yeah, Colin Clive, Frankenstein says he's just resting. He's waiting for a new life to come. They dig up the body. They find another body which is hanging, and they cut it down. But Frankenstein says that because the neck was broken, obviously from when it was hung, that the brain is somewhat damaged. Uh, just so we all know, then in future, there's obviously two brains and two jars in the end. One's an evil brain, one's a good guy brain.
I love how you had the scene there where Fritz breaks into the kind of laboratory that's run
And
by
it's so
Dr. Walsh.
blatant what's about to happen.
It's literally a jar that says normal brain and a jar that says
Yeah.
abnormal brain. Just in case you are in any confusion.
Yeah, in case you were unaware that Frankenstein's about to be a bit of a complex character. But yeah, we're in the classroom then, and the lecturer, played by Edward Van Sloan, says, "This is one of the best brains I have ever seen. It's one of the best kept brains I've ever seen." And it's the one that gets put in the normal brain jar, and then we also have the abnormal brain jar. Yeah, we got a lot of brains going on here. I should have said, sorry, it wasn't the two brains that were used at the start. I was just saying, like, it's funny that you go from that to the two jars. Yeah. That you're going from that straight to two jars with, like, big ass labels that say, like, good guy brain. But, the class is dismissed, and Fritz sneaks in. And yeah, we have the normal brain, which is the best preserved brain that Dr. Waldman has ever seen. And then we have the abnormal brain, which was the brain of a violent mass murdering killer. And Fritz, the klutz, drops the good brain. So he has to just go back and get the bad brain. And he steals the bad brain instead.
Yeah, then we cut to Elizabeth, who was Victor Frankenstein's kind of love interest, and she's talking about a letter she received from Frankenstein saying, basically informing her about his experiments. And then Victor apparently has told Elizabeth that he's going to ask Dr. Walsh. No, sorry, Victor isn't actually. Victor is Frankenstein's best friend. Yeah, apparently they changed the name from the book. That's the confusion there. But yeah, Victor basically tells Elizabeth that he's going to ask Dr. Waldron if he can help him, and he kind of starts to chat up Elizabeth, say not really the best friend in the world. He's gone pretty hard after his friend's girl here,
very much so.
And she swiftly rejects his advances, but she says, "No, look, I'm going to come with you. I'm going to try and find Frankenstein here because I need to see him, and it's been a long time, and I'm worried about him." So then they go and see Dr. Waldman, and he says that Frankenstein is a brilliant brain, a brilliant mind, but he is troubled, and he said that Frankenstein had a disagreement, but he only wanted to experiment on human bodies, which obviously is a big no-no for anyone in the medical field. And he reluctantly agrees then he reluctantly agrees to accompany them to go and visit Frankenstein, because he too was worried about how far he's going to take these experiments and obviously what the cost could be. So that's kind of the setup as to how these people, these acquaintances of Dr. Frankenstein, how they obviously come to visit him in his shady underground experimental lab.
Yeah, Waldman basically calls what Frankenstein's getting up to his mad dream, which is kind of like what the whole movie is, to be honest. And yeah, I can't not mention that Frankenstein's set is one of my favorite sets in old cinema. It is one of the coolest fucking sets ever. It's an old dilapidated windmill.
Yeah.
And it's I just like they were using equipment from this set for like the next 40 years in different films. Universal, like it's just such an icon. It's got like them big balls with the electric inside, where if you put your hand on it, your hair shoots up. And it's got ropes and stuff for people to climb up and down the windmill, because some of the staircases are knocked down, some of them aren't. It's such a cool looking set. I love it. And we go to the set. We go to the windmill, and Fritz is climbing down this rope to get from the top of the windmill down to the bottom. It's a really cool shot. And outside there is a huge storm with all the Magnetical Secrets of Heaven. Basically, the plan is quite simple. We have a corpse on this table. The table's going to be lifted up into the storm, and they're going to hope that this crazy lightning storm outside is going to strike the body, and the the volts will be enough to get the heart to kick back into gear. Because it's been said that Frankenstein managed to bring back a dead human's heart and keep it beating for, was it 3 or 4 weeks?
I think it was 3 weeks.
Yeah. So he has every intention of doing the same now, but with a monster, so to speak, as
in an actual human body. Yeah, in a cobbled together human body. Obviously, the bodies that they had stolen from at the start of the film, they've kind of assembled those in roughly about what they can, the best they can do, and yeah, that's the plan. But it's such a sick shot then of like the windmill outside and the rain and howling wind, and then you have like it's all set up to be spooky and creepy as hell. So it's really good stuff.
And Victor and Elizabeth show up then, and Fritz refuses to let them in, but because of the insane storm outside, Frankenstein relents and lets them into the laboratory, and then Waldman kind of sneaks in as well, and Waldman kind of goes around and has a look at everything because he does not approve of what Frankenstein is getting up to here, and he brings them up to the lab, and Waldman is getting really close for Fritz's liking, and when he goes to touch the body, Fritz freaks out, to say the least, and then Henry says he's learned beyond what Waldman taught him, and he's learned that the ultraviolet ray is like not the greatest ray that there is or whatever. He's found a new ray, and it's the ray that originally brought life on Earth.
Yeah,
and he's going to harness it, and he's going to use it to bring Frankenstein to life.
There's also a great moment just before that where Victor is obviously protesting with Frankenstein, and he's trying to get him to back down, and he calls him crazy, and then Colin Clive just gets this really dead-eyed look in his eyes, and he just like it's chilling. I think a shiver went down my spine. It's such a good piece of acting.
And so Henry sends the body up. It gets struck by lightning, and when it's lowered, we get the iconic "It's alive, it's alive" moment. One of the most iconic line deliveries probably in the history of cinema.
My dad used to quote that line, and I never knew what film it was from or anything. I just knew it. But he used to quote it all the time, and that's again, it's from a film I didn't even know, and I instantly kind of recognized it. It's genius.
It's like one of the best line deliveries in all of horror. It's so great. Colin Clive gives a incredible performance.
Yeah, it's a brilliant sequence. And then Victor and Elizabeth then visit Frankenstein's father, Baron, who was obviously concerned about him. He hasn't heard from him in a good while, and his father is convinced that there must be another woman, and he says, "Look, I'm going to go find her because she's obviously putting ideas in his head, a little bit sexist, a little bit misogynistic, but it is the 1930s, I suppose." And then Dr. Waldman tells Frankenstein they stay behind at the windmill because he wants to basically make sure that Frankenstein doesn't get up to any more mischief, any more bad ideas. He says to him the monster must be kept safe as it's a danger to others. But Frankenstein's unapologetic, and he says, as he doesn't really care if people consider him crazy, he's going to stick at it no matter what. So then Waldman reveals to Frankenstein that a criminal's brain was stolen from the lab, not the normal brain. It was the abnormal brain that was stolen. And this is the first that Frankenstein's heard of it because he just assumed that Fritz got the job done. But Fritz, idiot that he is, Frankenstein's not too happy to hear about this because it kind of messes his whole kind of equilibrium up. He obviously had a plan in place for a normal body, and now that it's an abnormal brain, that's messed up his whole kind of scientific experimental kind of idea behind the whole process.
Yeah, he says he's going to believe in his monster. He's going to believe in what he set out to do. And then we see said monster for the first time. He comes into the room. Boris Karloff just looks enormous. Looks like a huge man. And he comes in, and they open the skylight, and Frankenstein's monster starts reaching for the light, which is an interesting thing because then when Fritz runs in with a big flaming torch, Frankenstein again reaches for the light and then he's terrified of it. He is terrified of fire, which will be a thing for movies to come with Frankenstein. But yeah, he freaks out. The monster absolutely hates the fire. He lashes out, so Fritz puts him in the cellar, and then he starts whipping him and attacking him and bullying him. And then whenever we cut back to Waldman and Henry Frankenstein having a chat in the laboratory, we hear a scream. And one of a brilliant, it's I don't know, it's a real James Whale thing, I think. It's such an understated kill. We come down and the door swings open to the cellar and we just see Fritz hanging there in the background. There's no, like, you didn't need to see it happen.
Yeah, you don't need
it's
to.
Just
exactly.
the reveal is enough.
Yeah.
For it to impact you. Yeah. The monster has hung Fritz from the ceiling of the dungeon. And yeah, this is kind of where it all starts to go downhill for the lads.
Yeah, the lads decide that enough is enough and they're going to have to try and kill the monster. Because, yeah, this isn't probably chances are this isn't going to be the only body count that the monster ratchets up. So Waldman injects
and it's
the
only Fritz
monster.
at the end of the day.
Exactly. Fritz is a fuck up anyway. Like, he couldn't even get the brain situation right, so who cares? So Waldman then tries to inject him with something, but then the monster collapses after attacking him. So there's this whole fight sequence where really well done, actually, where you're unsure. You figure the monster's going to get the upper hand somehow, but it does look like the lads are going to probably come out on top.
Overpower it and incapacitate it.
Yeah, exactly. So they do manage to inject them with something, Waldman does, but then he manages then to kind of attack them, but then collapses straight after. And then we cut to Frankenstein's father and Elizabeth arriving at the windmill, and Henry collapses after the attack from the monster, and then they help him over to the sofa. And then they start to give him obviously medicine to recuperate, and then Waldman says to him, look, I'm going to take care of the experiment if you were to run up with your father. So Waldman, enough is enough for Waldman. He's going to make sure that this monster situation gets taken care of, because he knows that Henry at this point is obviously realising that he's made a massive fuck up, and yeah, there's only one way to fix it, and that's for the monster to be killed.
Yeah, so Waldman, well, Shane, does he take care of the experiment?
No, he doesn't, Harry. He doesn't.
No, he gets murdered. The monster straight up just kills Waldman. Waldman doesn't even stand a chance. This thing is clearly a pretty strong creature, to say the least. And yeah, Waldman doesn't even last a scene. He instant death. This film is not afraid to kill off its main characters, which kind of adds to the uncertainty. It's a really interesting thing with this film when you kind of look at the kill count at the end, the list of things and people who die. This film does not shy away when it comes to who this monster kills, regardless of who you are, how important you are to the plot, or how old you are.
Yeah, it's unceremonious killing there of Dr. Waldman, because, as you said, it's very, very swift. Basically, the monster wakes up as Waldman is conducting a kind of experiment on him, or is performing some sort of surgery on him to try and kill him. And straight away, he just kills him. There's no fight. There's nothing. He literally just kills him. No, he's gone. And then he manages to escape out the front door. Then he goes downstairs and he escapes out the windmill door. So he's on the loose now, and that's obviously not a good sign. So then we cut to probably a day or two later, I'd say, considering so Henry seems to be on the mend a little bit, and he's talking to Elizabeth. Basically, they're discussing their wedding, so they're pretty serious, obviously, about each other, and they decide to get married soon. And then we cut to the wedding day, again a couple of days later. So as the guests are kind of getting ready for the wedding, and they're kind of celebrating, obviously, the upcoming... I don't think they've been married at this point, have they?
No, because as a result of what happens, the wedding gets called off.
Yes. So obviously everyone's getting prepared for the wedding, and they're excited and stuff. And then we cut we cut to a neighbour nearby, little Maria and her father. So she's playing with her little kitty. And then her father says, look, I need to pop out. So he leaves. But then the monster kind of comes through the bushes. You would say something.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, I don't know. I feel like you might be the same, but do you ever like watch an old film and you see a cat or a dog and you're like, oh, they're dead now, and it's like I don't even think about it with the actors. I just think about it with like pets, like cats and dogs. I'm like,
It
oh my god, that cat's
that
dead. But
it's a
like,
bit
so
of
are
a
all the actors.
yeah. It's a bit of a line for me. Like I'm not saying I don't never want to see it, but there has to be a really, really, really good reason for me to kill a pet, like a cat or a dog or anything like that, because I just think it's. I don't think there's much cause for animal cruelty unless you have a really, really
Yeah,
good
yeah,
reason
yeah.
for it. That's just me.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's like I get more upset if a film kills off an animal than a person.
Yeah,
Well, depending on the person, of course.
yeah, that's true.
But then obviously depending on the animal. Anyway, so go ahead. Frankenstein's monster is kind of like sifting through this woods, and little Marie is playing with her kitten and her flowers by the lake, which is kind of next to her house. They kind of live on the outskirts of town.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So she sees this man and she doesn't seem too scared of him, which is interesting because he looks like
Yeah,
what he
big
is.
green fella.
Yeah, exactly. But she seems like a nice kid, obviously, and she decides that look, I'm going to try and play with this guy. So, um, she he takes her hand and they start to walk over to the lake, and she gives him a flower, and then a little bit, probably the first flicker of humanity in him, where he starts to kind of almost act very childlike
Yeah,
himself.
yeah. Karloff does really well here, I think.
Yeah, yeah. It's a
Just like
great
a
scene for
really,
Karloff
really
and the
human,
child.
wholesome kind of giggle to himself.
It's like a little giggle, a little smile, but like almost in an adolescent kind of way, where
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
tell
that's a
that
great shout.
he doesn't have like it's not an adult smile. He's literally acting like probably a kid of 2, 3, 4 years old maybe, because
Yeah.
he's only been a few days old at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And he thinks my interpretation of this scene is he thinks he's playing with her. He's not trying to like murder
Yeah.
her.
So what happens is she's picking like these big heads off of flowers, and she's throwing them onto the lake to show him that they float. And then she says, "It's your turn."
Oh
So
yeah,
instead of picking up the flower, he picks her up and he throws her into the
I think
lake.
she's going to float. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
And then she doesn't. She can't swim.
she sinks unfortunately. Yes,
She dies.
and yeah, we're going to come back to that a little bit later.
Oh, big time, big time. We're gonna come back to that. One of the most like one of the most harrowing shots in a film, maybe ever.
yeah,
Like
harrowing,
it's fucking insane
and,
how
and
powerful it is.
how long it lasts as well. It's not just a couple of
Yeah,
seconds.
it's so powerful. But we're not there just yet.
Harrowing. No. So then we can cut back to the wedding celebrations, and then Elizabeth says, "Look, where's Dr. Waldman?" Because she believes something terrible is about to happen. But Frankenstein says, "Look, that's not going to happen. Everything's taken care of. Dr. Waldman's going to take care of the problem." But then suddenly Victor knocks on the door, and he finds out, and he's now relaying to Frankenstein that Dr. Waldman has been murdered by the monster, and the monster is on the loose. So yeah, turns out he didn't take care of that problem after all. And then just at that exact moment, they hear that the monster kind of thrashing about upstairs.
Yeah.
That sends everyone obviously into a massive panic, because he's at least two people now that they know he's killed. Fritz and Dr. Walden, they obviously don't know about the little girl at this point.
Yeah, and all the lads run upstairs, and in a strange moment, in his confusion, Frankenstein just locks Elizabeth in the room. He's like, "You just stay there," and he locks her in, and he's like, "You don't need to know what's happening. Maybe it's a gender thing. I'm not sure." In the 30s, whereas like the man will take care of this. They don't, because they go upstairs, they can't find him. They go down to the cellar, they can't find him, and when they're in the cellar, they hear a shriek because that monster is in that bedroom. Yes, he has just locked his fiancée in the bedroom with his monster. But then, whenever the lads manage to break the door in and they get in, the monster has basically given up on killing her for some reason. It's interesting because, like, the film does not shy away from killing people off. So I just thought it was interesting that James Whale decided not to kill the bride off on her wedding day, and instead the monster just escapes through the window whenever all the commotion gets to the door. She survives, and after the monster breaks through the window and escapes, basically this wedding was a huge deal for this town. The Frankensteins are like a pretty big deal. They're kind of like local celebrities, so there's a big crowd here. And
Just on that,
everyone's.
we're about to. I know,
Yeah, go
we're
ahead.
about to go into that scene, but coming back to the kind of why didn't he kill Elizabeth, I'm wondering is my kind of reading of it maybe might have been because Fritz was being an absolute shit to him and he was trying to kill him obviously, and he's torturing him basically with this whole fire, this whole like yeah, and then he knows that
I
Dr.
think I know what
Waldman,
you're gonna say, and I think you're already right. Yeah, go ahead.
he knows that Dr. Waldman was gonna try and kill him because it doesn't take a genius to figure out kind of what he was trying to do there, and we know that he also didn't intentionally kill the little girl. She was just playing him, and he got the whole situation wrong. So I don't think Elizabeth is trying to kill him. That's suppose that's what I'm trying to get at. She's just trying to kind of protect herself, and she's probably running away from him. So because she's not actively trying to hurt him, I think that's probably her saving grace, and that's
I think you're actually dead right. Yeah, 100%, definitely. But meanwhile, outside after Frankenstein's monster escapes, the dad of Maria is walking through the village, absolutely shell-shocked, holding his daughter's corpse, walking through the crowd of people dancing at this wedding, and wow, is it like genuinely spine-shaking. Like it is one of the most powerful moments in any film in the 30s I've probably seen.
And the camera just tracks this father carrying his little girl's dead body for like probably at least half a minute, if not more.
Yeah,
like it's really, and then you just see the kind of the onlookers and the guests in the background as he's walking past. They're absolute shell-shocked, horror-ridden faces. It's really
it's incredible really acting from the man who played the dad. Like he has no dialogue or anything at this point. He does it a bit, but just the facial expression he's given is like so haunting and disturbing. And a crowd sort of forms around him, and I don't know, he's like the mayor of the town or the town crier or whatever, who basically asks what happened, and he says that his Maria's been murdered, and the guy says who, and he basically describes Frankenstein's monster. So 3 search parties are set up. Some random dude called Ludwig is to take people one place. Henry is to take people to the mountains, and then this town crier sheriff dude is to take people down by the lake. And so begins the lynching of the monster.
Yeah. So everyone's obviously had enough. This little girl has been obviously brutally murdered, and they've had enough. So they're out on the warpath for this monster, and finally, as they split up and they search for him, they're searching on the kind of the mountain, maybe not the mountains, but like the moors, maybe. And they finally spot him because he's left someone in a really bad way. Obviously, this person has tried to attack him and has paid the price for it. But the monster then sees Henry, and then they scuffle because he knows that Henry tried to kill him earlier, as we know, so that he's trying to get his own back, really. Then, surprise, surprise, the monster gets the better of that exchange, and as he's carrying Henry's unconscious body to the windmill, everyone spots him, so they start to run after him, and he takes him up to this abandoned windmill. I don't think, is it the same windmill as before? I don't think it is.
I don't think so.
No,
I think it is a different one.
It's a different windmill anyway, but another windmill. This is obviously where, by the way, Boris Karloff hurt his back legit. But anyway, he's carrying Dr. Frankenstein up this windmill. They go inside and he shuts the door. And Henry at this point has come to. He's back conscious. And as he tries to escape, they start to wrestle and fight again. And then the monster just... Everyone then is obviously assembled outside this place, and the monster just literally fucks him over.
And he hits one of the what is it, a propeller? Would you call it on the windmill?
I think
he hits that thing on the way down as well, which actually kind of broke his fall, but still would have hurt in the film. Henry hits the ground with a thud. And this is really sad. The Karloff's acting again is brilliant. The crowd then set the windmill alight, and the monster just cries out and screams again, quite infant-like.
Exactly, like infant-like, child-like. The look of just he's clearly like he never chose for this life. Obviously, he never chose to be fucking put together by this mad scientist. Like, and he is really only a few days old if you think of it. The look of innocent terror on his face in this moment is a brilliant piece of acting.
So sad. It's such a sad film. And
shrieks in terror, shrieks in horror. He's flailing and he's trying to obviously escape. It's tough shit. Fuck.
Yeah, but the windmill burns down with the monster inside of it. And then we see that Henry is recovering in bed not long later, and his dad, the Baron, there's like this recurring joke in the film about his grandmother's wine and nobody was allowed to drink it. And they say like, "Oh, is it time to crack open your grandmother's wine?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have it though." And that's where it ends. Kind of random ending. Yeah. I'll be honest, but it's the 30s, and not every film had a proper ending in the 30s. So just you kind of have to go into those films kind of expecting that.
A bit of a abrupt ending, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, a lot of films in the late 20s, early 30s just had an abrupt ending.
It was kind of
the done thing.
Yeah, they just kind of end.
Although, spoiler alert, Bride of Frankenstein literally just picks up from there. So if you kind of watch the two of them back to back, you wouldn't even really notice it, I'd say.
Nice.
But that's Frankenstein. Phenomenal movie. Yeah, so I gave it 4 stars, and I don't know what's stopping me from giving it 4.5. I genuinely don't know. I'm almost convinced the next time I see it, if I see it on a big screen, I'm just gonna definitely give it 4.5. I don't know what's stopping me. I love this film. It's fantastic. It's dark. It's very human. It's very camp and horror coded. Like, there's so many tropes that have stemmed from this movie. The sets are brilliant. The performances are brilliant. Yeah, it's a universal monster movie at its core, and it kind of just really catches the I don't know, it just gets the universal monster movie atmosphere spot on. But like, it's this, in fairness, all 3 of James Whale's really good ones all kind of do this. It's very human, and although it's camp and fun and horror, it is ultimately a very sad story, but it's a phenomenal film. Really well shot. I love Frankenstein. You should absolutely go out of your way to watch it between now and Halloween.
Yeah, I could cost on everything you just said. The performances, especially the 2 main performances, Boris Karloff and Colin Clive.
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. The set designs, as you said, probably two incredible sequences. So the scene where they lift the body up and the whole it's alive.
So good.
Incredible scene. And then, as we said, then that sequence then, well, actually it was taught the windmill as well. The windmill burning down is brilliant as well.
Maria as well, yeah.
But her father carrying that body through the town centre is genuinely so harrowing, and it's probably worth the price of admission alone, even though it's unbelievably sad and like horrible to watch. Like I think I said last week, I'm not so much into the kind of the gore and the blood aspects of, and I like certain slasher films, but basically horror isn't really my main, like, only one of my go-to. This is the kind of horror I love, horror that really kind of makes you think. Obviously it has like social impacts, because the whole thing about, like, obviously he's kind of Icarus flying too close to the sun, that kind of thing. He's gone too far, and he's tried to make a name for himself. And he's massively blown up in his face for Dr. Frankenstein. So it's a brilliant film, and it's I really enjoyed it.
And I assume you also gave it 4.
Yeah, I gave it 4 stars.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest, we're kind of grand for time. Have you watched anything at all recently, Shane? I know you've kind of been stuck for time with work, so. It's your letterbox hasn't been going crazy, but I've seen you have a few 2024 releases, I think.
I do, yeah. I'm trying to keep up with as much kind of new releases as I can. So, well, fly through.
I'm doing a terrible job of that. I'm so far behind in 2024
releases. Luckily I have like a cinema membership that kind of allows me to see a certain number of films free, so I kind of managed to take advantage of that when I can, because otherwise it's a bit of a waste. So I saw the new Joker sequel, Joker Folie à Deux, which I think I liked. I liked more than certain people did, than the general reception seems to be, even though I didn't like it. That makes sense. I kind of think that people are going a bit overboard in their hate for it, although I can see certain elements of it. That has a core message of, like, it tries to fight back against certain toxic elements of the fan base from the first film, which I actually respect, even if I didn't necessarily love the film itself. Megalopolis is a wild trip. I nearly haven't stopped thinking about that film. Like, Francis Ford Coppola is obviously a legend, but I wouldn't say he's one of my like top 10 or 15 directors that I would kind of love. But
Yeah.
every day I kind of think the film kind of grows on me in a weird way. I nearly want to watch it again to see how it sits on me a second time. It's a trip. It's a trip. I'll say that for it. Rebel Ridge is another good one on Netflix. You can kind of sit in front of your couch, obviously, and watch that one. That's a good thriller. And finally, Brad Pitt and George Clooney's new film Wolves is terrible. I really did not like the film. I'm not even going to spend too much time talking about that. I usually love a kind of a fixer kind of film, that kind of action comedy kind of genre, but it's not funny in the least, and the story is just so basic. Yeah, it wasn't for me. What about you?
Well, I watched Halloween's 3 and 4, and I'll be honest. So last year I watched Halloween 2 for the first time, and I thought it was fine, and that actually just kind of put me off then continuing the Halloween films that October. But I thought, you know what, I'll come back to them, and yeah, God, Halloween 3 is so great. It's so not what I was expecting at all. It's Halloween. There's no Jamie Lee Curtis. There's no Michael Myers. There's none of the same characters. It's an entirely different plot. The only thing that it has in common is that it also happens on Halloween night. It's a really interesting thing, and it's such a fascinating film. I think it's a bit like Wes Craven's New Nightmare, where at the time, although more so Halloween 3, at the time, because it wasn't what people were expecting, it got shit on massively, and now everybody loves it. Like, anyone who watches Halloween 3 now is like, it's a class film.
I kind of think that's what might happen with Joker Folio Do. But look, I'm not saying people will love it, but I think its reception will probably improve a little bit over time as people kind of just accept what it is rather than what they wanted it to try and be. Sorry to cut you off.
Because like Halloween 3 it couldn't be more different. There's even one scene where they just put the first Halloween movie on in the background on TV. Like, they acknowledge that the first two films you've seen were just movies. It's meta. It's really interesting. It feels a bit Cronenberg, with some of the effects as well. But yeah, and then Halloween 4, we go back in, and it kind of just captures what the first one managed to capture. It's a proper slasher, but it does everything. It does almost everything right. It's got a fucking crazy ending, which I rate. It was a ballsy choice to go with. They went with the ending, but yeah, that one's it's just kind of lacking the iconic kills. But then Halloween has never really been known for having iconic kills. It's more so about the eeriness. And the fact that Michael Myers, you can't kill him, you can only slow him down, and that's kind of the main appeal there. I saw Lon Chaney's Phantom of the Opera, which is way better than I thought it was going to be. Not that I didn't think it was going to be good, but like, I don't know, to really, really enjoy a silent film and to not feel the pacing or anything, and it's not necessarily, it's an hour and a half, but like, I never felt it drag at any point. The effects are really good. Some people don't like it because it's quite melodramatic, but I think in the silent era, melodrama kind of worked because it is a bit more like a lot of the performances were kind of just hammed up anyway. Yeah. So melodrama doesn't really feel that out of place in a lot of silent films. Yeah. But I really enjoyed it. And you say you don't like horror and gore. I watched Terrifier.
I know people love those kind of films.
You would hate that film.
No, I'm not. It's not even hate. Like, it's not that I hate the genre. It's just not for me. Like, I'd almost, it's not for me.
Yeah, I watched it out of morbid curiosity because I saw a lot of people saying like Art the Clown is like the most forced icon of horror ever, and I was like, right, well, if this is the consensus, then there's something to really try and decipher here.
He looks very, very freaky, that character.
Yeah, no, his performance is actually like legit very good. Like, he does his mannerisms and stuff are like legit freaky, and I think he earns it. I still haven't seen Terrifier 2. I'll watch it before Halloween for sure. It's one of them ones as well, like, you can't really watch Terrifier or Terrifier 2 at fucking 1 o'clock in the afternoon when your mom's coming home from work.
It needs to be dark.
How do you even explain that, you know? So I need to wait for everybody to like go to bed whenever I'm watching that Terrifier 2. But yeah, other than that, I think that's about it. I watched Freaks and I watched Spanish Dracula, but I touched on both of them in the short video I did. And yeah, that's about it. I really try to watch as many horror movies as I can in October for my spooky season thing, and I am so far behind the mark this year compared to last year. So I really need to start cramming them in somewhere. And the Halloween franchise is where I'm going to be sticking to for now, as well as I mentioned as well in the short video, I have a short video I want to do, and at the time I needed to watch 6 more movies. I'm now at 4. I now have to watch 4 more movies, and then I'll get it done. And so it'll be them 4, the Halloween movies, Terrifier 2, and then as many 2024 horror films as I can. I think I might watch Trap tonight.
Trap is a blast. I love Trap so much. I don't know if it's is it a horror film more than I'd say it's more like a thriller maybe. Almost like I'm not necessarily sure it classes as horror, although
my definition for spooky season is like thrillers, horror, serial killers.
Thriller, it's definitely serial killer, it falls right in that category for sure. So
any of that sort of stuff.
Either way, like I know some people shit on M. Night Shyamalan. I'm not one of those people. I think he's brilliant. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. But yeah, like I'm a big Shyamalan fan.
I like Knock at the Cabin.
Yeah, Knock at the Cabin is. I actually think he's on a bit of a roll.
I think it's underrated.
I didn't like Old that much, but I think he's on a bit of a roll in the last kind of decade or so. There was a point where he really kind of, his career was almost looking like it was almost over for after kind of, but then he's managed to get it back in a big way in the last 10 years. I think
Split is very good as well.
Split is great. I think Glass is a film that I didn't really like too much on the first viewing, and actually I've only seen it once, but the more I think about what he did with it, the more I kind of respect again what he did with it. Because it's not what I was expecting in a way. Subverted my expectations in a good way. But I think he's in a bit of a roll. And Trap is probably my favourite Shyamalan film since The Sixth Sense, to be honest. I think it's brilliant.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's just me. It's probably on my bag. Yeah, it's more my bag than maybe something. Like, I do love Split, but I'd say Trap, it gave me everything I wanted from that film. So, that's kind of a good one to watch.
But yeah, that's about it, I think. We're doing pretty well, it's safe to say. I think 200 subs before the end of the year is a fair thing to try and achieve. Feel free to follow us on Instagram as well. That's kind of where most of our announcements and stuff comes out first. So if you want to kind of be notified about anything with the podcast, I'd say follow us on Instagram. We have a Twitter. It exists.
Yeah.
For some reason, it's got more followers than everything else. And yet, like, it gets no likes or engagement. So,
to be honest,
we have a Twitter.
we know a Twitter. Like, most of those accounts are bots at this stage. It's pretty much known. So, it's unfortunately, Elon Musk
feel free to follow it, but like, don't hold your breath for anything great going up on our Twitter page. Exactly. And obviously, thank you very much. The support's been great, and let's keep it rolling into the rest of Universal Monster Month. Next week is The Invisible Man, another James Whale film. Return to the podcast for the GOAT Claude Rains, which I'm excited for. Such a class actor. And love that film. And I can't wait to talk about it next week.
Yep, that's going to be a great one. The Invisible Man is a banger, in case anyone hasn't seen it. So, probably watch it, I'd say, even before we delve into it, because it's well worth it.
For sure. And that's been the Golden Hour Film Podcast. Thank you very much. Feel free to leave a comment on what you think. As well, I think it's worth pointing out to the people who keep commenting that Shane is a fool for liking the remake of 12 Angry Men. Keep that coming, because that engagement has been pushing the views on that video so much.
To be fair, I think it's only like 4 or 5 people. I think most people kind of have respected it.
Oh, okay, good.
They did with it,
Because I've only been seeing like glimpses, and everything's like the remake was, but like
I think the video is doing really, really well. It's probably the biggest video you've had.
It's doing so well. Yeah, but the engagement is the reason. Just the amount of comments and likes it's getting.
If you didn't like it, tell me. Keep telling me.
Yeah, keep letting us know as well, hop onto the Dracula thing and tell me I'm a fool for preferring the Spanish Van Helsing.
Tell us how much you love the Vince Vaughn Psychos compared to the Hitchcock Psycho.
Yes, do it, please. Actually, no, that one totally backfired.
Crazy.
Instead, I just got horrendous stick on Reddit for like, why the fuck would you even ask this question? I'm like, oh, come on. At least comment that on the video and don't DM me on Reddit, stranger. I actually got so many DMs on Reddit, like, why the fuck would you ask this question, you fool, you moron? It's like, for a YouTube video. I'm not being serious. It's a joke.
Exactly.
But like, they couldn't have even had the courtesy
it's a
to comment
rhetorical
that on the YouTube video.
Exactly. It's
At least if they
literally a
commented on the
rhetorical
YouTube video, it would have helped us. Yeah.
That's it.
But yeah, so if you have any stick or hate for us, don't DM us. Comment it on the videos. Help us.
Exactly.
And yeah, thank you very much. We'll see you all next week for The Invisible Man. Although, who knows, there might be a short video. It depends. It really does depend. But you'll definitely see us next Friday for The Invisible Man on the Golden Era Film Podcast. I've been Harry Bailey.
I've been Shane Mulvaney.
And thank you very much.